Om. 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 Sahana vavatu. Sahanau bhunaktu. Saha viryam karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sasannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriyah yam sannyāsamite prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava nahya sannyasta sankalpaha yogi bhavati kaschana arurukshor yogam karma karana muchyate योगारूढस्य तस्यैव शमः कारणमुच्यते यदा हिनेन्द्रियार्थेषु न कर्मस्वनुषज्जते सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी योगारूढस्तदोच्यते उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानम् नात्मानमवसाधयेत् आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुः आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्वैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत् जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः ज्ञानविज्ञानतृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रियः युक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्ठाश्मकाञ्चनः सुहृन्मित्रायुदासीनः मध्यस्थद्वेष्य बन्धुषु साधुष्वपि च पापेषु समबुद्धिर्विशिष्यते योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकीयत चित्तात्मा निराशीरपरिग्रहः हरि ओम नमस्कारम to everyone. We shall chant verse 5, please. Uddharedatmanatmanam natmanamavadharayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu Atmaiva ripuratmanaha uddharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadhayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Let man lift himself by himself. Uddharet atmanam atmanam. Let him lift atmana by his own self. Atman himself. Let him lift himself by himself. Let him not lower himself. Avasadhayet. His self alone is his friend. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. His self alone is his enemy. Atmaiva ripuhu. Ripuhu is enemy. The self alone is his enemy. So, a very, very famous verse, a very famous, oft-quoted verse of the Gita. Let man lift himself by himself. His self alone is his friend. Now the word Atma, which is translated as the self here you would have noticed is in the small s, not the capital S. So the small s here refers to the individual ego, is to the individual, the jiva, the egoistic person who I identify myself. When I say myself, I'm talking about this individual, this ego. So when he says his self is his friend, his self is his enemy, means you are your best friend, you are your enemy. You got to help yourself, you got to lift yourself by yourself. You either evolve, you either devolve, is entirely your, you got to accept it's entirely your call. Don't attribute it to external factors. Even your upliftment, you cannot attribute it to others. Your fall, you attribute it to yourself. So you are the architect of your fortune. You are the architect of your misfortune. You are the architect of your life. You either make it or you destroy it. Remember, it is all you are making. So the verse, when he says this, as I said, is a very famous verse. The verse gives the importance of self-effort, which in Sanskrit is known as Purushartha. Purushartha is the importance of the ability to put in one's own self-effort. Now, when it comes to the spiritual field, many people attribute their spiritual transformation to providence, to the gurus, to the blessings, to the wishes. You start delegating it to others, thinking that with that, things would happen for me. Things happen for my betterment. But here he hits it straight. It drives the point straight. No guru can help you evolve. Uddharet atmanatmana. You got to lift yourself by yourself. And who is saying it? The guru of all gurus. Lord Krishna is considered as a Jagat Guru. And he says, Arjuna, I can't help you. When he says you got to help yourself by yourself, means I can't help you. You got to do it yourself. Like you go to a doctor, and doctor can only give you a direction. He can give you a path. He can give you a methodology, but you've got to adopt that methodology. He can't put that exercise in for you. He can't clock that hours of workout for you. Can he do that? Can you delegate your physical transformation to your doctor? Can you delegate your mental transformation to your psychiatrist? So also you cannot delegate your spiritual transformation to your guru. You cannot delegate your intellectual transformation to your teachers, can you? So you can't delegate your physical transformation to the doctor. You cannot delegate your emotional transformation to your psychiatrist. You cannot delegate your intellectual transformation to teachers, nor your spiritual transformation to the gurus. But yet, a doctor or a psychiatrist or a teacher or a guru give you only a direction. You must look at these people as only. How should you look at these gurus as? I hope something positive comes up. Otherwise, if any one of you are frustrated with the gurus, you say, these fellows that tell you nothing else to do. Only, when we get to Vajagovindam, we'll talk about it, but Inga is straightforward. So the moment you talk of a guru, what should be your understanding? In fact, there are two types of gurus. What are the two types of gurus? Maniamji, you raised hand for the different question. Now the question has changed. The problem is the questions are very dynamically changing. Yes, sir. I know you have an answer for all. Solungo.
I apologize, Guruji. I don't have an answer for all. I'm here to. Am I audible?
Yes, now we are clear. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for all, but then when you asked that question, I thought I had an answer. I would have loved to answer that. But then when you asked about the two types of gurus, I don't have a ready answer. But then there are gurus who say they can do this and all these things. There are gurus who guide us, who tell us the possibilities, these things. That's the way I look at it. Somebody takes on himself the responsibility of, you just come to me, give me this, and this, I take you there. The 99% gurus are like that, and they would just offer salvation on a platter for you. Just have to follow these rules and all that, you go where you want. The way the Pope was selling, intelligence certificates and all those days. So there are gurus now who are making money that way, and there are gurus who are guru in the real sense. They want to destroy the andhakaram in you. So they would just tell you what is where and all that. It's for us to search and find out. The second question, I would like to straight away say the second one also. The first,
sir,
the first,
I don't know so much clarity I don't have, sir. Avalo discrimination ability enkudilla. Sir, when I said two types of gurus, both are right types, sir. No, you compartmentalize one as wrong and one as right, the majority and the minority. Now, I'm not looking from that perspective, just to help those who are to think along with me. Keeping in mind of that a guru is in the right spirit. I'm not talking in a negative sense. Okay. So the moment then we talk of guru, there are two types. In that sense, I said. From that perspective, perhaps, if we look at it, maybe some of you have to think afresh. See, you may think it is very straightforward, but a guru can be animate, a guru can be inanimate.
Yes.
So when I say two types of a guru is animate, inanimate. A guru can be a literature. Inanimate can be a literature, can be a guru. A text can be a guru. Animate is a person, a living being who guides you, who you can consult. There's a possibility of an active consultation and fine-tuning your requirement, which an inanimate guru would not do to you. Like a text would never talk back to you. It gives you clear instructions. You will have to calibrate it yourself. But a guru, when you have someone in person, helps you to fine-tune your requirements, because spirituality is a very fine individual requirement.
Yes, yes.
Isn't it? So in that sense, I said a guru is of two types, animate and inanimate.
Yes.
Okay, right. Now, what was the other thing I asked earlier, Maniamji?
What does a guru do? Something, I don't have your exact words, but what?
Okay. What is the, how did I phrase it? Who is a guru? Is that,
yeah.
okay.
Who is a guru? I would look at a guru as,
sir, as if rather than, can I narrow the context?
Oh, yeah.
Can we?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, then we will not know how we are approaching, because it could be a very large context of discussion. So just to narrow it down in the context of the verse, a guru is saying, lift yourself by yourself.
Yes, yes, yes.
So in the context of this statement, when a guru is telling the student, you got to do it yourself.
Yes.
Then who is a guru here?
Guruji, I look at it this way. I have a guru and he's been kind enough to take me along the path. And there's a ditch in front of me. And he's showing the light. It's for me to see that and then cross the ditch or fall into it. So he's just the light who is showing me the way, but he can't prevent me from falling into the ditch. He's the guru.
All right. A beautiful analogy. Yes, very good. A few have commenting. Srinivas Reddy Garu is saying that he's the guru. Yes, sir. Namaskaram to the guru in you.
When guru, my understanding, when you made the last statement, sir, when you say the guru has been telling the student to be learn on yourself. So he's given a guiding path. How do you lead your life? But the putting into the action and driving it isn't a self. It comes from self. So the guru, he may not be all the time as a shadow for you to drive the life. So in that perspective, we need to be guru ourselves for a moment of a time. Shishya and guru is the one where we keep changing our positions. In this context, I feel that we need to act as a guru to our conscious to drive. Maybe, and that's my understanding. I don't know how far I've been there. In line with that.
Okay. Now, taking in all the other inputs which keeps rolling in the chat box, taking into all the comments, Matrima has said, the person who makes you think and analyze, it's a mentor. Soumyama is saying, shows the difference between the real and unreal. Our conscience is the guru. Brings the extract the answer from the student. Vijaya says guru gives the knowledge, but we have to make to wisdom. Yeah, see, in fact, a guru is often said, in fact, Tinkima also mentioned it clearly, that he is a symbol. A guru is only just but a symbol. A symbol always has a symbolic representation of something. A guru is a symbol. A guru is an idol. An idol is that which represents the ideal. A symbol only represents the ideal. The ideal is IDEAL. Ideal is the principle, the goal, the purpose. Idol are symbols or tools or methodologies or indicators or signposts. That is what idol means. So when you look at, you must understand a guru is that which is only a symbolic representation of the purpose you have to reach. So your association with the guru will be a symbolic reminder for you to get to the goal. The guru is not the goal. The signpost is not the destination. The signpost leads you towards the destination. So you don't have to hold on to the guru. You don't have to hang on to the guru. You don't have to develop an infatuation to the guru. It is not a fanatic attachment to a personality, to a name and a form or a figure, which invariably today, the love and attachment in the spiritual field has tantamounted to a fanaticism towards a particular personality or a religion. It's a celebrity status influencing your thinking, sadly so. Mark those words. It's a celebrity status influencing your thinking. A guru should encourage your thinking, not to deactivate your thinking. But when you completely surrender in the wrong sense, blind surrender to these gurus and personalities, you delegate your spiritual transformation to them, which is not what the text is recommending. You use them as a symbol, as a reminder. In a layman's sense, often you keep scrolling through the various gurus who keep talking, and you keep hearing this parallel to a GPS. A GPS is something which constantly guides you in the path leading you. And if you have lost your track, it re-guides you from where you are. It keeps you to the path. So the guru just plays that role as a symbol. And if you are lost, if you need an inspiration, if you need direction, you can go and actively consult a guru. That's not at all. But you'll have to take that effort. You'll have to put that effort. But remember, you can't delegate it to anybody else. So there's nothing as guru's blessings. It is there only from a perspective of emotion. Yes, you need to have that feeling and affection. But a true guru is not preferential, isn't it? So you got to make the most out of what that has come your way. It's not that he gives less to one and more to other. If there is, then it is that such a person is not a true guru. But a student may find himself very dear to a guru. It appears that perhaps a guru has a favorite, but there's nothing like that. It shouldn't be perceived like that. Understand? Because there's no preferences. So the accent is on effort. But when one takes in the extreme step of effort, there's always a possibility of, what's the possibility when one attributes his or her own success to one's own efforts? As Rajima rightly says, ahankar or ego comes in. So there is the danger of you start arrogating it to yourself. So one side, you have to put in that effort all by yourself. At the same time, you've got to ensure you always humble and bow down with gratitude to the greatness, to the guidance of the great gurus. So there is a very thin line between effort and not arrogating that success to yourself. So you see the thing, there is effort and no arrogation, where you have a reverential gratitude to the gurus. On the other hand, what is the flip side of it? What is the opposite of that? Sitaramji, good to have you back, sir.
Yeah, I've been missing a few classes. I'm also
No problem.
good to be back.
Yes. So before I can get you to answer the flip side of it, can you just repeat or say what did I say last?
Yeah, what you mentioned was that one, of course, there's a thin line between your effort and the results. So there's a chance of becoming arrogant with the success of one's efforts. So one has to be cautious in that way. That's what I understood.
Yeah. So one is you have to put in the effort, ensure you don't develop an arrogance. So how do you ensure that? Is you have an attitude of, you bow down to the gurus,
The gratitude. Yeah.
your gratitude, you are grateful to the wisdom.
Yeah.
So this is how the balance is. Effort is self-effort, but you bow down. Now what is the opposite of it? The flip side of it.
Flip side would be that you give the entire credit to the guru for having done it. So you say that even the success that you've got is only because of what the advice that the guru or somebody has given you. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Keep the context in mind. Keep the verse context in mind, or what we have actually explained till now.
Yeah. I'm a little lost.
No issues. Anybody else? Sudhakarji?
I attribute everything to my efforts. All the fruits belong to me only, and I am the owner of that. All these feelings, one gets the opposite of that. I only did everything. It is my ability, my capability, and my capacity. Because of that, I have achieved this.
No, that is the literal opposite of it. But I'm looking at the philosophically, what will be the flip side of it? You're not wrong in what you're saying in that point of view, but the philosophical flip side is which many people resort to in the spiritual field.
That is arrogance, I feel.
No, which is literally the opposite of having no arrogance is arrogance. Which is not the perspective I'm looking at. The opposite, which I was trying to get at, rather. The flip side of that is, which I think Gayatri Ma has clarified. Solunga Ma, Gayatri Ma.
Yeah, we think that we go to a guru without putting any effort. We expect the guru to do miracles in our life. And when we don't find any miracles, we say, no, this guru is not good, and we keep changing. So we expect the guru to do everything for us.
So the flip side of that is you delegate your spiritual transformation to the guru and you put in no effort. So one is the positive aspect, other is the negative aspect. The positive is you put in the effort, don't develop an arrogance by taking the credit to yourself, but you attribute it to the benevolence, to the providence, to the wisdom which is given by the gurus. You bow down to the guidance given by the gurus, but you put in the effort, you slog it out. But to ensure there's no arrogance, you allow providence to come and curb that ego. The other side of that is, as Gayatri Ma said, you don't put in an effort, you transfer the entire delegation to the gurus and say they'll take care. So there has to be a meeting point of effort and
You'll have to have the humility, devotion.
yeah, to effort and perhaps providence and the blessings, if you want to call it, So where would they both come in? This is important. So you only allow the providence and the thought of the higher to constantly ensure you don't develop an arrogance. But effort is constantly on. So that's the meeting point. Effort is on, but the meeting point of allowing the grace or providence or wisdom of the gurus to ensure that you don't get carried away with that. Because along with success always comes arrogance. So how do you ensure that is through always be humble and bow down, isn't it? So this is the very, very important aspect which we have to understand. So always the onus is on you. So you put in effort, you grow. You don't put in effort, you do not grow. So accent is on your self-effort. So if you put in effort, you become your own friend. If you don't put in effort, you are your own enemy. You don't blame any external factor. That's the message. So it is neutral. It's like you can't tell a knife is good or bad, isn't it? A knife is good or bad, depends on how you use it. If a surgeon uses the knife, he uses it to cut open to do the necessary surgery. But the same knife can be used to stab a person, kill him to death, put him to death. Revolver can be used as an instrument of protection or to cause ruthless damage. You can cause considerable damage if you don't know how to use it. So if you don't put in your efforts correctly, it can either make you or mar you. Right. Kusuma is actually saying it is very difficult to contain success. Where are you? Do I see you?
Namaste,
Yes,
Guruji.
Namaskaram, ma. Yes, ma. You're saying something?
Yeah, it's very difficult, as you said, it is very difficult to contain the success rather than the failure.
Yeah. So what do you mean contain success?
I mean, that we should not get that arrogance that we became successful.
So how do you curtail it?
I don't know. I'm little lost. I'm slowly trying to understand your teachings, but when it comes to answering, I'm a bit finding it a bit difficult.
No problem. You're very articulate. In fact, you're very clear when you say, but you can always feel free, to open up and share. That's how you'll be able to express yourself, But you
Yes.
have a very valid point. You're only reiterating something which we mentioned a little while ago, that it's not easy to allow ahankar to get in where there is success, as the natural thing is, when there's a failure, you start blaming everybody else. When there's success, you attribute to yourself. I don't know why that way.
Yeah.
I don't know why it works that way. I don't know, anybody can clarify why it happens. Isn't there a Kabir Doha which clarifies this? Something keeps telling there's some Doha there. Is there a Doha, Tinkima? Any idea? Anyone? It's an indirect context, not a direct one. The one which it says, दुख में सुमिरन सब करे, सुख में करे न कोई, जो सुख में सुमिरन करे, दुख का हे को होए. No, it's an indirect reference to this concept, but not direct, So it is very important to remember the higher values in your times of success. Then you will have no sorrow, there's no worry and anxiety. Okay. So remember chapter 6, verse 5. Always you fall back on your own effort. So no guru can help you transform. You can only guide you for your own transformation. You got to do it yourself. Therefore, often this is told that you got to put in that effort. By merely listening to the lectures of gurus is of no use. You got to sit idle and just lecture to yourself. The moment you start lecturing to yourself, that's the effort you put in. All right. Verse 6. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yena tvaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yena tvaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Now, there's a similar message, but a slight difference here. Please mark the words self, which are in caps, which are not in caps. The S in particular. So the self is his friend who has conquered his self. The self here, the self is his friend. The capital S refers to the Atman. So the self, the capital self, Atman, is his friend for one who has conquered his little self, his ego. To the unconquered self means one who has not achieved that mastery over himself, his ego. The self, the Atman, verily becomes hostile like an enemy. Atmaiva Shatruvat, like an enemy. What in Sanskrit means like. So if you have conquered your little self, the Atman is your friend. If you have failed to conquer yourself, the Atman appears to be like an enemy. Now, in all of us, it must be like an enemy, because there's always an element where you have not conquered yourself. Ilya, isn't it? So just get this, and also you will find that there is a certain discrepancy. Why does he say that self is your friend and self appears to be like an enemy? There is a difference in stance. We'll come to that. So the two interpretations, the small self, the word Atma, the small self means ego, which has to be controlled, which has to be conquered, which has to be overpowered. The second interpretation to the word Atma, the Atman, which is the capital self, which is either your friend or your foe. Two things in the verse. So there's no confusion in these two terminologies. Okay. Now the famous words of the great Vivekananda. He said, you conquer your mind, you've conquered the world. You all have heard it umpty number of times, isn't it? So he's in line to this. Perhaps he has taken it from this source, from this verse. Because Gita was before the great Vivekananda, no? So every one of them have tapped this wisdom, but he has put it so beautifully. Conquer your mind, you've conquered the world. Now, what do you mean by that? Now, many of us, when we think, what is it that we construe instantly? What's the implication we get when we say, conquer your mind? Whenever we talk of the mind in this sense, what do we construe? What we construe is, you think mind is a negative element. All the time we are being told to control, conquer, discipline, police, guide, supervise by the intellect over the mind, intellect controlling the mind, with wisdom control the mind. There's a heavy feeling of negativity surrounding the understanding of the mind. So I think it is important for us to understand mind itself is not a negative entity. Mind is not negative. Now, I will take a simple example to convey this. See, okay, even before I get to that, is it not true that your mind also has noble emotions, positive emotions? Oh, by the way, I got a few messages today of a lot of love. So happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Lots of love to all of you. Where does that all come from? From the mind only, no? From the heart. So your heart has that lovely feeling of love and emotion, of feeling for the other. Devotion also is an expression of love. Gratitude is love. Forgiveness, gratitude is an emotion of the mind, positive emotion. Forgiveness is also an emotion of the mind. Sympathy, empathetic feeling, to be concerned of others, etc. Yes, Samyama. So all these are emotions which are also from the mind. So how can you tarnish the mind by saying mind is negative? You cannot. Can we? Now come to the example which I wanted to narrate. Now, for example, when you lay a garden, you put a lawn, you planted grass, you get the best grass out there. Which is the best grass out there? I only know China grass. Is there better grass than that? Rajima?
I think it is Korean grass, Guruji.
Okay. We shall change it from China. Anyway, there's a certain sentiment, so we will respect that sentiment. We'll make it Korean grass. Okay. Now, let's say you plant Korean grass in your garden. Then what comes from the garden? Without effort, you find you will have to deal with a lot of weeds, isn't it? So what is the mind here compared to? Okay, mind is the garden. And what is the Korean grass? Good emotions, positive emotions. And the weeds are the negative emotions. Now, when would the weeds grow? Padminima, when would the weeds grow in a garden?
Don't take care of the garden, it will
When you
grow
don't-
automatically.
Correct. When you don't attend the garden, when you don't give enough attention to it, when you don't take care of it, what happens is the weeds will start growing. They will start overwhelming the proportion, and then there is no more Korean grass, there's only weeds grass, weed garden. Correct? So in order to maintain your garden, keep your garden healthy of the Korean grass, what you need to do?
Pluck out the weeds.
You need to keep the garden in regular attendance. You got to keep it in good repair, isn't it? You need to do regular gardening, removing the weeds, isn't it? So come back to the example and the symbolic representation. The mind is the garden, the lawn, let's say the lawn you want to grow is the positive emotions. The weeds are the negative emotions. But you can't go about saying mind is negative. Mind is negative is akin to, is like saying weeds is the garden. Weed is not the garden, isn't it? But it is happening a reality today that the mind is seemingly negative because, why is it happening, Padminima?
Because we are not attending to it and plucking the weeds.
We are not attending to it. Correctly said, as there is a lot of ignorance. Due to ignorance, we are not attending to the mind. We are not allowing the wisdom. We are not conquering the mind. So when they say conquer the mind, conquer the world, the mind becomes an enemy only if you have not conquered the mind. The moment you have got control of the mind, the very mind becomes a friend. So let's not brand or tarnish the mind here. We end up doing that unknowingly. So you should not tarnish the mind. Mind is nothing a powerful force. It's energy. Either you must learn to contain it. Once it's negative, you must contain it. Once it's positive, you've got to harness it. Isn't it? So if you're able to harness that energy, it becomes positive results. The moment it is negative, you need to contain it, isn't it? The terms contain and harness again has a certain implication, isn't it? So, but the verse is not saying that. The verse is saying, if you have conquered the mind, conquered the self, the ego, the Atman is your friend. I'm only talking from a relative perspective. The absolute perspective says Atman is your friend if you have conquered the ego. But if you have failed to conquer your ego, the very Atman appears like a Shatru, hostile like an enemy. Now, who is a bandhu? A friend is one who gives you comfort, solace, happiness. Okay, even so, one is the mental level, how you look at it. The slightly deeper level is, you can say, the friend and foe is like the conscience. See, when you have fallen a prey to your temptations, when you have fallen a prey to your emotions, when you have fallen a victim to your own negativities in you, what does the conscience do in us? The conscience creates a discomfort within us, isn't it? An uncomfortable feeling. It starts hurting you. It's like something from within you is poking you. You know you have done something wrong. You could have done it in anonymity, in privacy. but you know you have done something wrong. So deep within is like somebody stabbing you, not even pricking, somebody stabbing you. So your conscience becomes your own enemy. But when you have conquered yourself, when you have overcome the weaknesses, when you have brought the best out of you, your conscience supports it. The conscience becomes a friend. It gives you solace. It gives you happiness, isn't it? I'm only giving different interpretations. So one is, take the example of the mind being the garden, the lawn being the positive emotions, and the negative is the weeds. That's one context. Second is, your conscience becomes your friend or foe based on how you have conquered or not conquered yourself. And ultimately he says, Atman is your friend when you have truly conquered yourself. Atman is like an enemy. He doesn't say he is your enemy. Atman is your friend, is like an enemy when you have not conquered. So when you're not conquered, Atman appears to be very disturbed. Appears. It's not that Atman is disturbed. It's like, take the example in Atma Bodha we have studied. When you pour water in a green tumbler, you say the water appears green, isn't it? But in a transparent glass, you don't say the water appears colorless. What do you say? The water is colorless. Clear? The same way, the sun is calm in a still surface. In a placid sheet of water, the sun appears calm. But the sun is calm. But in a disturbed surface, the sun appears disturbed. The sun is not disturbed, appears disturbed. So using the same language, Atman is your friend when you have perfected your body, mind, and intellect. Atman appears your enemy through an impure body, mind, and intellect. Through an impure individual who has not conquered himself, Atman appears an enemy. So if you're not able to switch to the level of Atman, you switch down to step up or step down. You should ideally be able to step up to the level of Atman. If you're not able to step up to the level of Atman, you step down to the level of Annapurnama. Step down to where?
Pranam Guruji. Conditioned consciousness, jiva, with a little impurities. Sorry. We have not yet reached the level of Atman, little down.
Thank God.
The yogi
Thank
level?
God. Thank God you say so. Otherwise, one or two people may be thinking we already reached that state. If you are not able, no, in understanding this verse, the verse is saying if you have conquered yourself, the Atman is your friend. If you have not conquered yourself, the Atman appears to be like an enemy.
Enemy.
You should, if you're not able to relate, there's a fair possibility you will not be able to relate to the context of the Atman. So to make you comfortable, you can step down the interpretation to feel comfortable. Instantly, it'll strike a chord with you. So what is a step down interpretation is the question.
To the where we have not elevated ourselves little, but still in the worldly affairs. And
Illamma,
I'm not
you-
sorry, Guruji.
No problem. No problem. No problem. Now it's chance of Tinky Ma now.
So then we would be at the sattvic. I remember you had taught us about, tamasic, rajasic, sattvic. There were so many levels till one reaches the highest state.
Ma, in
Sat-
the entire class, almost an hour is coming to. I have not used the
No,
word sattva today.
Many classes. Before one reaches that stage, you're at that sattva, total sattva level.
Ma, can I take the freedom of correcting you here?
Please, please.
You are not thinking along with me.
Acha. Below the
Independent, you are thinking out of the box. It's called out of the box answer. I'm in fact expecting you all to repeat what I said. In conclusion, I'm only asking to ensure you've understood. So if you followed what I've said thus far, you'll get the answer. I said we have given 3 interpretations, as it were. The first, we said mind is not a negative element. You must perceive it as something which has good and bad in it. It's just mind is just the garden, man. It has positive and negative in it. Why are you conditioning it as negative? Why are you branding it as negative? And then what did we say? What a second interpretation we gave?
that it becomes an enemy only when we are unable to conquer it. The Atman is the enemy when we are unable.
That is the absolute interpretation. The middle, there's a 3 level. The middle is
we remove all the negative thought. It is the field in which has both positive and negative. Remove the negative to keep it positive. We have to tend to it basically.
Rajima, we should include the concept of fine, some fine for wrong answers. That way, at least I'll collect some money from you all, because the wrong answer, I'll get some money. Correct answers, we'll think what to give, but wrong answers is what we'll get. Fine collection. I remember going to a training course before going to Vedanta when I was 16. I was very, my father felt I'm not outgoing. I was very introverted from beginning. So he felt I need little exposure. I have to be a public speaker and things. So he put me through a public speaking course. It was a 2-week course, and I was just 15 then. I remember all people from different walks of life were there, and during the 2 week, every evening 2 hours we had to go. And what we were told is when you ask, you meet anyone and you greet, how are you? So everybody would say, I'm fine. So the condition was, let's say we meet each other in the lift, in the lobby, and we greet, hi, how are you? How was the day? I'm fine, everything. Instantly, I'll go up and tell the instructor that if you say I am fine, you have to pay a fine. There was a fine of 100 rupees. Remember, it was close to 30 years ago, this one. If you say I'm fine, you have to pay a fine. Instead of saying fine, when you asked how are you must say I'm on top of the world. You must say Chuma, something like that. You must say, So like that, if you all give wrong answers, fine for you all. It will all be communicated to you all in the right channel. Beware. Okay, Srinivas Garu, are you following, sir? The fine will start from you, huh? So watch out. We already implemented it. Only the
Yeah.
quantification will come to you all.
Wherever there is a loss, you should also have a profit.
The profit also will come to you. Profit is the wisdom that's coming to you, sir. Yes. So what is the step down?
Step down. Sorry, Guruji. I could not able to comprehend, but I could able to answer to the middle part where we saw talking about the ignorance breeds to this negative emotions, like which we talk about the example of the garden.
Let's say garden is the first interpretation. Do
Yeah.
you have the translation with you?
Yes, the self is a friend, and for him who has conquered his self. But to the unconquered self, the self very
Self
becomes
alone
hostile, like an
like
enemy.
an enemy. Okay.
Right.
Now, how do you interpret this? The second interpretation. I thought I mentioned why I'm struggling to understand how come you all have missed the point. Huh? Anybody? Manyam Garu, what did I say, sir?
Guruji had spoken about, the way I understand it, if you cannot be that self, what is the stepping down? From selfish, become unselfish. You're not able to be selfless, become unselfish. That's what.
Out of the box.
Out of the box.
OOB. Short forms, OOB. Sir, Atman is your friend. Atman appears like an enemy. Instead of Atman, what is the word you can replace? The concept to understand. And I said a friend is that which comforts you, and a foe is one who causes a discomfort, causes little trouble.
Here the Atman is the mind. The mind appears to be your enemy means you already mentioned the conscience, so that's what I'm stuck to.
Adida, that is the answer. The conscience is the word, is the answer. So
you
if you
that
replace,
because you already mentioned that, we thought maybe that's not the answer. You already made
no. As I've told Tinkima, I'm only trying to conclude so that you all follow it. We understand, because we will not be able to relate to the Atman. Therefore, the step down from there is you got to get into the concept of conscience. So when you do a positive act, conscience comforts you. When you do when you're not conquered yourself, conscience is your pricks you, it hurts you, it becomes your enemy. So from the level of the mind, you come to the conscience, and from the level of conscience, you go to the level of Atman. So this is a 3-step interpretation we have given ourselves, isn't it? Are we all clear? Does it all make sense? Isn't it? Srinivas Garu, correct?
Yes, clear, sir.
Clear, Ganda. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So verse 7. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayoho. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayoho. This verses 7, 8, and 9, he is going to give us the result of having implemented verses 5 and 6. If you have implemented the methodology or the advice given in the 5th and the 6th verse, which is to put in that effort and conquer yourself, if one has done that, what would happen? Jitatmana, the one who is self-controlled, the supreme one who is self-controlled, and Paramatma. Paramatma is a supreme one. Prashantasya is peaceful. The supreme one is self-controlled and peaceful. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu is balanced in Shita Ushna, in heat and cold, Sukha Dukkha, in pleasure and pain, and also in Mana Apamana, in honor and dishonor. Now, if you think you have spiritually progressed, this is the quality control test, quality test. How many of you will pass? How many of you fail? Test yourself. If you have adopted the right methodology, the right approach in the spiritual field, which is to put in the effort, if you do this, this is the results. So verse 7 talks about how this enlightened person, this jnani, is balanced to all the subjective changes that happen within, the heat and cold at the physical level, joy and sorrow at the mental level, honor and dishonor at the intellectual level. Now, these are only symbolic. So you got to expand on the different opposites at the different levels of the personality. So starting with, can you all give me the various, because this is often used, you almost they become stale. You want some freshness to it. Can you give me other opposites at the, let's start with intellectual. Give me opposites at the intellectual level, which affects you at the intellectual level. He gives mana, apamana, honor and dishonor. What are the other opposites at the intellectual level? Hariji, what are the opposites at the intellectual level? Please unmute Ji, Hariji, we can't hear you.
Wise and foolish.
Wise and foolish, or being smart and being stupid or foolish, okay? What are the other intellectual opposites we all are subjected through? Intellectual fluctuations. Reason and?
Without any reason, without any analysis, without impetuous.
Okay. Just hold on, Hariji. Yes, Srinivas Garu?
Ignorance, sir.
Knowledge and ignorance.
Lack of ignorance is the one where.
Yeah, knowledge and ignorance is at the intellectual level. Wise and unwise, as I said. Honor and dishonor, as already said. Rational, irrational. Is that what you say? Irrational, again, it comes under the realm of the mind. Emotions come in there. So what are the opposites that affect you intellectually? You can say fame and no fame is same as honor and dishonor. Same.
It is all I versus not I.
it is ego, yeah.
Ego.
But intellectually is different, isn't it? Yes, arrogance and humility. You said. I don't think introverted, extroverted may not come, Siddharamji. That's not an attribute of the intellect, though. No. Glory and downfall again is honor and dishonor. You know. So again, this is just to mention, give a line of thought where the various intellectual fluctuations one is subjected to. Now, the mental fluctuations, we'll have a host of them. The mental fluctuations are, he says, sukha dukkha, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain. Is at the physical level or emotional level? Rajima, where do we classify pleasure and pain? Physical or emotional?
Guruji, can it be both? Bit of both?
How is it? How do you say pain at the emotional level? So pleasure and pain could be categorized as the physical, isn't it? So this is what we got to a little apply ourselves so that our study becomes more interesting, so that we are able to relate to when we go through our experiences, you know. Intellectually, you say acceptance, non-acceptance. Your views are accepted, your views are rejected intellectually. So you have an opinion, you know, and you propose and your wife disposes it in dustbin. That is all understood. Not God disposes, wife disposes, you know. So acceptance, rejectance. So intellectually you will have that, and then emotionally you will have the fluctuations of all the positive emotions, negative emotions, you know. At the physical level, you can take it right up to birth and death. So there is the opposites of. So one who is conquered himself, he says, that is the typical idiomatic construction on the Shastras. So this jnani or this enlightened person, what is the beauty of it? He says samahita. The word he uses is samahita, means he's balanced. How do you balance yourself through these fluctuations of good and bad, the pleasant, unpleasant, joy, sorrow, honor, dishonor, birth, that this is, and as we know, this is part and parcel of life. Like the crests and the troughs of the waves is a part and parcel of an ocean. But when a ship finds itself in the ocean, it can't be subjected to that roller coaster experience. And people go into these huge ships or cruise liners, and what is the size of the ship compared to the ocean? Nothing, isn't it? What is the size of the ship compared to the waves? Nothing. It's huge. It's minuscule. A matchbox, madri, small, Lilliput. But still, there are 2,000 people, 3,000 people sitting and enjoying the ride. You're having a fine dining dinner with a champagne, and yet the ship is going through the crests and troughs of the deep sea of the waves. How is it possible? In the language of, I call oceaneering, or shipbuilding. What do you use in the shipbuilding to maintain the samahita of the crests and troughs of the waves? Any idea? Shushikanji, any idea, sir? How do these ships are built to ensure that they have this samahita in the crests and troughs of the waves?
Hari Om Guruji.
Yes, sir. Hari Om.
There must be some balancing system, mechanical system.
Yes.
What is that says? What is that part? How it is concerned? It is not very clear.
No
But
idea.
appears to be a balancing system by which the ship moves in the erosion sea, ferocious sea.
Yes. So it reduces the ship's roll due to the waves or the winds. It ensures that the roll doesn't happen, the swaying doesn't happen. See, the ships have what is known as stabilizers. The stabilizers which operate on the principle of the gyroscopic control system. It's an interesting little search you do, the gyroscopic control system which operates or the principle on which that functions, the stabilizers are built in. You have these stabilizers, you have active type and a passive type, and depends on the different level of types of ships. Especially for cruise liners, you need an active stabilizer. Especially for a container ship, you don't need an active, you have a passive. So the concept is it stabilizes the inevitable constant onslaught of the crests and troughs of the ocean. If not, it's a matter of time the ship will sink, because it's just the sheer buoyancy of it will unsettle it and it will sink. So similarly, we'll have to have some kind of inner methodology to be able to constantly endure the onslaught of the physical, mental, intellectual fluctuations, which is a part and parcel of life you and I cannot escape. But one who has mastered the ability of conquering himself, he says, such a person remains peaceful and balanced. One who has worked on himself. You got to have that. The takeaway is here's self-effort. You have to have the ability to approach it, treat it as a pure sadhana. And once you do the right effort in the right direction, that's where you have this knowledge guiding us. Once you do that, you will get the benefits are there to be seen, We'll come back to this verse and I'll explain a little further. Okay. I hope not, Rajima. I hope the guru doesn't become the stabilizer. Then the guru is in serious trouble thereafter. And where should the guru go then? All right. Yes, ma. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.